This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today from Dahrouge Geological Consulting. As someone on Twitter, and this made me laugh, Jody said, the legendary story of the man who inspired 1 million neurologists, Mr. Jody Dahrouge. Jody, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Gerardo?
I am well. I am well. Let's dive right into it. I had the pleasure of meeting you for the first time at PDAC. We were able to sit down and have a couple of brief conversations that were really insightful. And obviously, look, the talk of the conference was Patriot Battery Metals. It's no secret, obviously, that yourself, Darren Smith, who's VP of Exploration for Patriot, Neil McCallum, who amongst others helped stake that and is now VP of Exploration for Q2 Metals. It's no secret that Dahrouge Consulting has become the go-to firm for anything and everything James Bay because of that success. And so, first off, for those not familiar with you, can you give us just a brief primer on your background outside of being the man who inspired 1 million neurologists here recently?
Well, I became I went to the University of Alberta, graduated in 1998 or 1988. God, I'm getting old. 1988 from geology. And then I worked a few years in the industry, and you know how it's busy, it's not busy. Quite quickly, I learned that going from job to job may not be the ideal situation or project to project. And so I went back to university, worked full time as a geologist for ATCO Power, and concurrent with that was studying computing science. Graduated from computing science in 1993. I remember having numerous job offers. I think it was the start of the high tech boom, really. And I said to my wife, well, I'm going to go to claim staking for this fellow, Laurie Hofferdahl, who had a consulting firm in Edmonton. And once the claim staking's over in September, I'll take one of these great computing science jobs. You know what? Never looked back. It's pretty hard to take the field out of the geologist. Once you're a geologist, there's no job like it. There's no life like it.
Well, clearly, the passion is there. I know that, the recent success, and we'll talk Corvette in just a second. We'll talk, a couple of other names in James Bay that I'm curious to get your take on. And then obviously, I want to talk about what plays you believe have the potential to turn out to be real plays, because as I mentioned in the intro, there's so many neurology plays nowadays that it's overwhelming. It's funny. I put up an interview with Q2 Metals, which, I'm biased. I'm a shareholder, really like the team, like the connections to the Patriot Group. And I phrased the question, is this the next Patriot Battery Metals? And I had some great back and forth banter that I really appreciated on Twitter about, not you too, Gerardo, right? And so let's talk James Bay. Let's talk James Bay, Jody. I want to talk about Corvette and what you believe that has the potential to be. Again, I am a biased shareholder. It's one of those positions that I will hold the bulk of until the eventual buyout and or it getting put into production. But how special is that district?
Oh, it reminds me of the Pilbara district 10 years ago when Greenbushes was changing from a tantalum producer to a lithium producer. The Pilbara, Western Australia has just blossomed from 10 years ago. They've been through the ups and downs of high spodumene prices, low spodumene prices, and yet they always kept managing to make discoveries, advancing projects. This reminds me of that, a very early stage Pilbara discovery or Pilbara district discovery. We're just at the very beginning. I see a multitude of discoveries happening. Pegmatites are not necessarily as rare as, say, kimberlites or diamond deposits or rare metal deposits, but they're rare enough. And they tend to occur in districts or environments which are repeated around the world. Like you can go looking for paraluminous intrusions that give rise to these types of deposits. And again, they tend to occur in clusters or in districts. It's pretty special. We've been drilling for Patriot for going on probably 2 years now. and there seems to be no end of it. I mean, the activity just is picking up all around us. There's discoveries all around us. Certainly, you would point to Q2 Metals, which I quite, funny enough, Neil and I tried to buy that project before Q2 bought it.
I heard.
And the prospector, Neil told you the story?
No, I heard from someone else.
Yeah. I mean, it was very frustrating. We couldn't buy it. I kept upping the offer, but it's like, look, we sold it to someone else. Little did we know it went to Q2 or Queensland Gold at the time, but we had figured that out, and good for them. I mean, it was a great pickup, and now luckily we've got the opportunity to work on that project. It reminds me a lot of Patriot when we first staked Patriot, in 2016 or so. Outcrops on surface, spodumene on surface. I haven't actually been on the ground, so I haven't seen it. We're relying on, historic reports. But certainly it has similarities. And, the drill bit will tell us if we're the liar or not. If we drill it and it's got scale to it, then it's going to be pretty exciting for that group and that project. But another one that I like is Ophir Gold. They have the continuation to the east in that same greenstone belt. And there's, as we look through the historic data on that project, we start seeing references, from the 1950s, 1960s for spodumene bearing outcrops that are described as, pegmatitic, or they certainly look like they could be pegmatites. And then, constantly looking at satellite images, trying to zero in, could that be a pegmatite, or is it just basalt, or is it just, what is that? And, obviously you're fooling yourself until you actually get on the ground. But I think there's a lot of companies out there that have tremendous potential in James Bay. Osisko's got an amazing land package, that they're just starting to dig into. Winsome is a beautiful discovery at Adina. It's a project we actually worked on, several years ago. Brunswick Gold has picked up an amazing land package countrywide. We're talking about James Bay, but there's other parts of Canada that have potential as well. The Northwest Territories, in and around the Yellowknife area, that district has been known for over 50 years. And a company called Lift has picked up a big land package in that area. And one of the very first projects we staked and transacted with Patriot's predecessor, 92 Resources, was the Hidden Lake project, which is just east of Yellowknife. And we had channel sampled it, drilled it, got some really nice intersections. Certainly not the scale or magnitude of what we're seeing at Patriot, but back then I would be happy finding a 20 million ton deposit. Now looking at the potential of Patriot, it's like, well, how am I ever going to top this? But
and it's still early,
certainly
right?
In this environment. Pardon me?
And it's still early with Corvette. That's the thing that's amazing to me. I mean, I think, and I'm not a geo, right? But I think easily just with CV5, we're probably headed closer to 200 million tons right now than 100 million tons. Just, we'll know soon, get some more results from the Nova Zone, and we'll see how far that extends. But, I've gone on record saying in my non-geo, very simple-minded way that it's starting to look to me, and I said this to Blair the other day, it's starting to look to me like one big blob underneath. Is there anything in the drilling that disproves that up until now?
Well, I'm not actually the one doing the consulting on it. There's Darren in my office is sort of managing the exploration on that. Obviously, Patrick Schmidt, there's Brad always helping out with it. Just looking at what's been reported, it's got scale. I mean, over 3 kilometers long. I think the deepest drill hit is 400 or 500 meters. It's definitely, the thing with, I liken it to an egg carton. You know how it's corrugated on one side and corrugated on the other side? That's really what these things look like in 3 dimensions, or, that's my best analogy. So they're gonna pinch and swell on strike, and they're gonna pinch and swell at depth. They're gonna get cut off. They're gonna be faulted. But the thing that is amazing with Corvette is there's 50 kilometers worth of pegmatite outcrops on surface, and they come and go because this area is heavily glaciated. So a lot of it's covered. If it was not, if this glacial cover, if all these lakes weren't present, I think it would have been discovered many years ago.
Sure.
But the fact there was these isolated outcrops along this greenstone belt, people never paid that close attention to it. But, imagine something 3 kilometers long sticking out on surface like a sore thumb. It would have been drilled. It would have been tested, and someone would have owned it.
So it sounds like, Jody, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you actually do believe that some of these other plays are going to turn into real discoveries, right? We know the bulk won't, right? I know the bulk won't, because you can't have 500 new entrants to James Bay, and I'm just throwing a number out there, and have every one of them be successful. That's not the norm anywhere in the world, and James Bay isn't going to be an exception. But you absolutely believe, it sounds like, there's more discoveries to be made, not just at Corvette, obviously, but with the Q2s, with the Ophirs, with some of these other companies that you mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some will turn out. Will they be the scale of there's only one Patriot.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical there will be another of that magnitude. And certainly that the beautiful thing about Patriot is the mineralogy. I mean, incredibly coarse-grained spodumene that is easily, or at least, an initial test work appears to be easily recovered by dense media separation. So the simplicity of it, the scale of it, and it's all spodumene. It's like 98% spodumene. At least that's what I've observed. It's not, there's not pedalite, there's not lepidolite, there's not all these other things that complicate recoveries. And the coarse grain nature of it is I think very unique because it simplifies the recovery. There's only one Patriot, and on a worldwide basis, I truly believe over time this will end up being in the top few deposits in terms of scale and simplicity.
No, I
the other ones
agree.
that but to be honest, if I went out and found a 40 million ton deposit right now somewhere else, I'd be one of the happiest guys in the world. That's in North America, in Quebec, in the James Bay region. Quebec bends over backwards for the miners. I'm an Albertan on the other side of the country, and I wish we had the geology that Quebec has, in our portion of the Canadian Shield, and the tried and true, mining history that they have. But hey, that's why we're in Quebec, is because that's where the great geology is, and that's where you can develop projects in Canada these days. It's also always ranked really high in the Fraser Institute rankings, on a worldwide basis for where mining companies like to go do their exploration and development. We've actually been working in Quebec, I want to say, since early 2000s. I'm a director of Commerce Resources. We have a rare earth project in northeastern Quebec, south of the community of Kuujjuaq, called Eldor.
I was going to ask you about other commodities that you like. You beat me to it, Jody. Yeah, not to interrupt, but I was absolutely going to ask you next what other commodities you like, and I was going to ask you about commerce. So please continue.
I love rare earths. There's a few projects I'm following around the world. I really like one called Meteoric Minerals. The symbol is MEI. Tolga runs that company out of Australia, trades on the ASX. They have a beautiful ionic clay project in Brazil. They're surrounded by a number of mines. I believe, some of the aluminum companies are probably in there mining clays or bauxite in and around the project. But early days for it, very attractive. I like commerce, of course, been a director forever. And again, there's another project we discovered that's got scale. It's just a bit remote, though I believe in the project and it can be developed over time. And I think rare earths need to be paid attention to, because Lynas is faced with this perpetual issue in Malaysia of not getting their permits extended for processing their ore that they're mining on Australia and shipping there. And they're currently constructing a similar facility in Australia, knowing that Malaysia is going to shut them down. And does that facility in Australia get up and running? And and running smoothly before Malaysia shuts down the facility that they currently have there, there could be a problem for the Western world if there's a gap in that time frame.
That's an interesting conversation to have. And the reason I really think it's interesting on a percentage basis, the first time that I came into Patriot-like gains, and again, on a dollar basis, Patriot far exceeds that because I didn't have as robust positions back then as I do with Patriot. But the rare earth craze back in the late 2000s, early 2010, 2011 was the first time that I was able to buy a company at 16 cents, 20 cents, and see that go to $18, right? There was Rare Element Resources. There were a couple of other ones. Tasman Metals was one. Flinders Resources had a graphite and rare earth asset at one time. I could go on, but you believe that we're going to have another rare earth type shortage. Do you believe it'll be more sustainable than that run? That run was, for me, a year and a half or 2 years, and then it was a round trip for most of those companies, right?
Yeah, I think that's going to hit the market soon enough. And it might take something like Lynas having their processing facility in Malaysia shut down to get everybody's attention. But the demand for rare earths is increasing. I don't have the specific numbers. I just know that rare earth demand, especially the battery or the magnet feed, the praseodymium, neodymium, dysprosium, those rare earths, they're just great shortage. I mean, you saw Elon Musk talk about how Tesla's going to phase them out of the electric engine or from one of their models. And I'm skeptical. I mean, an induction engine versus a permanent battery or permanent magnet engine, I believe the permanent magnet engine is far superior. And, if you're going to increase the length at which an electric car can travel without re-energizing, using permanent magnets is probably the way to go. And there's no shortage of rare earths. There's lots of rare earths around the world. There just has to be I used to say, if you find a rare earth project, you find a metallurgical nightmare.
Yeah.
Right. They're not easy things to process. Oftentimes are associated with uranium and thorium, which you have to deal with. So that is a big issue. They're costly to sort out the metallurgy. They're costly to develop, and you need, good on Lynas on what they did, because they achieved what no other company in a long time had, since Mountain Pass, I suppose, in California, had achieved in developing their project. Rare earths are an interesting one, and hopefully your comment plays out again and makes a whole bunch of money for a lot of people, and that a lot of these inexpensive rare earth companies, once rare earths, get in the limelight, they all take off and have kind of, those, what do you say it was, 16 cents to $18? I'd love to see those returns for people.
Yeah, no. It was absolutely phenomenal. And, unfortunately for me, for maybe a year and a half, I thought, man, this investing in juniors is easy, right? I mean, there was one point, Jody, where I was sitting there once Rare Element Resources got an NYSE symbol. They actually had options, right? And so I was buying calls, long dated calls, right, on margin, and just, again, percentage gain wise, thought, man, I absolutely love this. I think I have a knack for it. And of course, a year later, when it all went the other way, it was a very humbling experience, and one that I'm thankful for now as I get a little bit older. But I absolutely agree with you. I think rare earths will be back in focus soon. It's something that, our group is positioning for quietly behind the scenes. I'm sure we will have more conversations in regards to that, but I'm definitely of the same mind. So you like lithium, you like rare earths. What other commodities here in the near to midterm do you just see the world not being able to do without, Jody?
It takes I've always been a uranium bug, and had a passion for uranium exploration in the Athabasca Basin, been involved in a lot of discoveries and putting together a lot of projects. In around 2005 to 2006, I got involved with a company called Strathmore Minerals, which is eventually spun out Fission Energy. David Miller was the first president of Fission Energy. I was the second president, but that company and its predecessors eventually made several discoveries on projects we put together, and I'm proud of that. And I think uranium is going to be in the spotlight again soon enough. And there's a host of recent discoveries in the basin, and things that people should be paying attention to. Other commodities, historically we focus more on the esoteric, uranium, rare earths, lithium, especially metals like niobium. We've been involved in a company called Niobec, or Niocorp, in Elk Creek, Nebraska. They have a beautiful niobium deposit at Elk Creek. I'm also a gold bug.
Of course.
Aren't we all? And we're always all waiting for gold to hit new highs.
I'm very thankful for lithium in the interim.
Gold, it seems, is the thing that empties my pocketbook, doesn't make me more money.
Yeah.
I'm always investing in it, waiting for the big home run, and it just never seems to materialize.
I hear you. Jody, this has been insightful. We should absolutely do it again. I'm looking forward to the reception. I appreciate your time. I know you're plenty busy. I know you're likely not needing any work, but how can people get a hold of you if they want to be in touch? Just get a hold of me through the office. We have an office in Edmonton, Alberta. Easy to find the phone number, and just leave a message. Most of the time I'm here in the office. If not, I'm out traveling somewhere, but the office will always know how to get a hold of me, or just message me on Twitter, where I like to hang out and talk way too much politics. Love it. Jody, absolutely phenomenal insights. Appreciate the time. Thank you so much again.
Okay, thanks for chatting.
All right, cheers.
Cheers.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.